The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello there and welcome to Secure Greater Productivity and Profitability for Your Franchise Business with Organisational Health. I'm Hilary Kitto and I'll be your host today. Now, this webinar will provide a great overview of organisational health for franchise businesses and some easy wins, and there are more webinars to follow. But before we get going and introduce the presenting team, let's make sure that you can all interact with us as we go through the session. So if you can have a look at the panel in front of you. Now, if you can't see it, it will be collapsed on the side of your screen. So click on the little fast forward button next to the big red arrow, and this panel will open up in front of you. Now, here's how you interact with us. If you have any questions or messages, please type them in here. Now, they're only seen by John and me. If you need any help, or if we ask you to respond to a question, just raise your hand as shown. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you. Now, last but not least, we do want your feedback at the end of this session. So if you leave early, we would really appreciate you sparing 30 seconds. Just let us know what you thought about the session. Okay, so now let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. So firstly, I would like to introduce John Barley. John is a well-known and respected gentleman in both the insurance and franchise industry, and he has been a member of the Franchise Association for over 14 years. Through research on causes of insurance claims, John has become very knowledgeable on the subjects of business resilience and organisational health. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Hilary. And it's now my time to introduce Hilary. She's currently a director of a successful mortgage broking firm, and she also has her own health and wellness organisation involved in a number of strategic partners and is highly experienced in this field.
Okay, John, I think we should start by defining organisational health. So let's run a poll of the virtual room. All right, so to everybody online, if you can have a look at your screens. So we're going to ask you the question, how would you define organisational health? Please can each person online select one. So either your health, franchisee health, supply chain management strength, profitability levels, or productivity. If you can each choose one, and I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll closing. Thank you. So John, let's just have a quick look and see what the poll results show us. So the poll results came in as, the highest being your health. So people were definitely saying that they would define organisational health by your health.
That's a real good start because that's exactly where it does start. And if you are healthy, then it also means your organisation has a better chance of being healthy.
Yeah, okay. Well, so let's clarify things a little bit further. So back to everybody online, I'm going to ask you a second question. What size of business do you think organisational health applies to? Now, you can choose as many of these as you like. So you have 3 options there. Do you think organisational health applies to small franchisees, i.e. sole traders, to medium-sized franchisees with staff, or to a large franchisee with many staff? So go ahead and pick as many of those as you like, and I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Poll closing. Thank you, and I'll just have a look at the results. And look at that, John. Everybody said all of them. Thank you.
Awesome. We're on the right track. So organisational health is a real big subject, and it covers many, many factors that need to be finely balanced. It's like an ecosystem where its functionality is based on optimization of all the factors. Now, how are you going to deal with a mammoth subject like organisational health? The answer is one bite at a time. It's easy as following our module approach and prioritising those easy wins. We're going to talk about that later. So we're going to be focusing on the franchising system that delivers products and services to the consumer. We're going to be looking at economies of scale, and they're important, so it's all about optimization. It's an ecosystem which needs to be in perfect balance by having all the factors working at the optimum.
Yeah, so what does that mean in the context of organisational health?
Well, a franchise business system is geared beautifully to get some real big wins from organisational health, particularly in terms of productivity. The organisational health ecosystem focuses on people and their health. For example, you're going to see growth when we consider health by looking at things like nutrition, by looking at environment, including lighting, hygiene, ergonomics, and another subject, job design. We then look at your systems and processes to reduce your risk, along with less accidents and errors, so you're going to actually reduce your losses. Let me explain. This reduces stress levels of you and your staff. It's going to reduce costs. It's going to reduce illnesses, which are preventing people from working effectively. As a result, you're going to get those financial wins as you're using your time more efficiently and also your resources. Staff and franchisees can become more productive, efficient, and can move easily. They can be trained to accept higher responsibilities and even look forward to that challenge. The result is that you are going to happily grow your bottom line. When franchisees do well, then guess what? Your whole system is going to do well. So that's a quick overview of how organizational health works in an ecosystem. The good news is that you can approach it in a simple, modular way, eating those elephant bits one bit at a time. Also, because of the unique structure of a franchise system, it is possible to pilot specific initiatives in one outlet to test the outcomes before moving it across the whole system.
Yeah, and John, what's the impact of ignoring it?
Well, it's quite damaging. You really need to be conscious that if you neglect this opportunity, you're burning up lost opportunities of raising the franchise business system to greater profit and growth. Organizational health is a very large bottom line opportunity for any business. Despite this, it's absolutely astonishing that organizational health is one of the most overlooked areas in New Zealand businesses. We need to start doing things right now.
Okay, so John, what's the difference between corporate wellness and your concept of organisational health?
Well, let me use an analogy. It's a bit like seeing somebody walk down the road and they look well. They've got good glowing skin and they're walking normally. They also have, the ability to be quite fluent with their speech. But if you actually said to them, look, go and see a doctor because we want to do a complete check on you, I call that an audit. And that's when you really start looking at the health of the individual. You get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay. So what do you think are the top wins when it comes to organisational health?
The top wins have got to be driving productivity and profitability upwards with organizational health and reduction of those costs. And here's a real secret for you. It will also reduce the prospect of you, the franchisee or the franchisor, from being sued for not preventing stress and ill health in the workplace. This sort of action is becoming more common. So let's look at stress. It's actually been defined in the Accident Compensation Act, and it means mental strain over long periods of time caused by environments at work and at home, thus causing sick days, lack of focus, and that nasty bit, bullying. At worst, and the saddest bit is it also leads to suicide at work, and this does happen in New Zealand large numbers. Although this occurs only in small number of cases, it pays to be aware of it in terms of extreme end of the spectrum. Now, for those people who are interested on the return on the investment, the statistics show that for $1 spent on organizational health, the companies secure a $2 to $5 return on that investment. These stats are obtained from Triscope, a leading New Zealand organisational health provider who constantly reviews this information.
So how do we get our hands on these organisational health wins, and where do we start? What I'd like you to do is just think about your company or organisation in a quiet moment. Where do you think you can find productivity and profitability benefits by looking at organisational health? What are your pain points? In a similar session run earlier in the year, some of the feedback was very interesting. We actually heard of one organisation that ended up making cash flow gains by reviewing their manufacturing waste and looking at it in a different way. So rather than simply recycling, they ended up changing their process so that there was less waste at source. This used less raw material and it actually resulted in savings.
So now we're going to look at your franchisees as your primary resource. I want you to think about something when you have a moment. Please recognize that you need to be optimizing the skills and abilities of your franchisees and their staff. People are the biggest asset you have, and yes, they can sometimes be your biggest liability depending on how they are utilized. If you're going to eat the people part of the organizational elephant one bite at a time, the benefits are going to be impressive. There are hard and soft benefits.
So don't just describe the difference between hard and soft benefits.
The hard benefits are those that can be measured from physical results over a short period of time. Accountants and economists absolutely love them because they're based on physical results. Soft benefits are those that can only be measured over a long period of time, and they're in conjunction with a long-term focus. For example, improvement in overall health of the staff and reduced risk of accidents and mistakes.
Now, John, in a past discussion, you told me that a real difficulty and cost for franchisors is finding good franchisees and staff. We have to recognise that there is a real battle to find the right talent in New Zealand, so improving staff and franchisee retention is a big win. And of course, better retention means less downtime training new people and prospecting for franchisees. What you are proposing is a big plus for franchisors from the point of creating demand for the franchise, and this means retention of top performing franchisees and also improving the value of the franchisee business for sale at a later date. So let's take a look at some of the easy hows. For example, reducing your sick day costs. Staff getting sick can be a major drain, and many franchise outlets are run by ma-and-pa operators with a small number of staff, so any staff downtime really does impact on profits. And later on we'll share with you some ways you can improve franchisee and staff health and reduce sick days. Let's look at increased uptime. This is all about better productivity. Better organisational health leads to greater uptime for your staff. And we have some terrifying figures based on government statistics in Sweden, the UK and New Zealand. As an example, about 40 to 45% of staff are literally sitting in front of their computer screens with their brains not connected. They make mistakes, some very costly. They waste resources and are generally not very productive. And that's not just about office workers. This is something that we need to turn around fast. Let's have a look at better decision making. Increased ability to use the power of thinking. You consider how a happier, more productive workforce suffers from less stress. Stress actually prevents clear thinking and it affects health. Addressing this issue fosters better decision making. In other words, fewer costly mistakes, reduced delays.
Okay, so now we're going to look at what higher engagement provides, and it's going to provide to you efficiency wins as staff are focused on what they're doing. For example, one of our partners is SharpDrive. They found that their online driver training courses actually pays for itself through less accidents, reduction in petrol costs, lower costs of maintenance, less frequent replacement of such items as tyres, and reduced excess payments. That's an insurance thing. So they're not only saving on vehicle consumables, but also results in reduced insurance premiums and excesses, and that's another real big win. Now we're going to talk about cultural glue. and we need to think bigger. Let's think about improvement of that cultural glue. Here's another huge win fostered by sound organizational health. This is a biggie for franchise businesses because so much of it is based on reputation. If one outlet is performing poorly in this area, it reflects on the entire operation. If your people are more engaged, believe in the system and its values, you're going to get a stronger, more consistent culture and better reputation. This creates stronger reputation and brand recognition of your franchise with prospective franchisees.
And you might well ask, well, what does stronger reputation and potential brand recognition actually mean from the outside? Well, sometimes this can allow you to actually charge more for products and services because of the brand trust you've created. It could potentially even increase the value of the franchise business and raise appeal to potential purchasers.
So we're now focusing on franchise reputation, and we're going to look at improvement of reputation. When you think about it, your people are guardians of your franchise reputation and brand. This is worth a fortune in reputation management. Think about recent events with Green Acres and the worst one, Hell's Pizza. The cost of damage control must have been enormous. So the next one is lower insurance premiums. Yippee, okay, better decisions plus less mistakes plus less accidents equals, guess what, less claims. The result is less resilience on insurance, reduced premiums, and better resilience in times of crisis. Looking at external savings, you can actually reduce your insurance costs.
I think I can hear the audience cheering, John.
And it's time for a change, Hillary, and this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And hey, look, here's a big shift. Think about turning HR into a profit center. Think about human resources being in control of reducing risk, not just from the point of health and safety, but from the point of reducing stress in the workplace. This eliminates accidents, clerical errors, absenteeism.
And this is where Deloitte's were coming from as well, because they did a report on just this subject. They looked at Domino's Pizza franchise. They have created a culture with more time dedicated to human resource management. And they did this by ensuring that their resources are top quality, thus reducing demand on staff time to do quality control of raw materials. This enabled them to move forward on market-leading branding initiatives such as Pizza Tracker and mobile apps. And that was a real great example.
So John, can you share some case studies of organisational success with us? Maybe some examples from large and small organisations?
Yeah, one of the cases that we've looked at and studied very carefully is on a bus company. And we are looking at the heart of a real cause of problems. And I want you to look at this case study because it demonstrates great wins through active management of staff fatigue issues. And this is really relevant for franchise operations in the transport sector, whether it be taxis, couriers, or other road movement for franchise business systems. Maybe it also has a ring about it for maybe other business systems that are out there.
Okay, so sounds good. What happened?
The company did a sleep disorder screening with staff, as sleep problems are a real major problem for many people. We all need adequate sleep for our bodies to function and recover from I'm getting tongue-tied, but recovering from sleep deprivation. So if we don't get it, well, we're really going to suffer and we're not functioning at 100%.
Yeah. And aren't there some legislative requirements in some countries that relate to sleep disorders?
Yes, in the USA and Canada, they're looking at it very, very seriously because they recognize that the cause of accidents is due to the drivers falling asleep behind the wheel. And they call this apnea. And what will happen is that they will actually test the drivers. If they're suffering from this disease or issue, they will actually lose their license for up to 6 months. If they don't deal with the problem or whatever exercises they're doing doesn't deal with the problem, they will lose their license forever and they will lose their career.
Wow. And in this situation, in addition to sleep disorder screening, here's what they also did. They actually ran workshops for employees and families, plus fatigue awareness courses for supervisors and managers. They incorporated better shift management to allow higher quality downtime. They made easier access to water and healthy food for the staff members. And I love this one, John. They set up napping stations so that staff could have a power snooze. And so, John, tell us about the results of that.
Well, before we do that, I just want to point out one thing. If you cannot get to sleep within 20 minutes of your head hitting the pillow and you're not having a full 8 hours sleep, you have got a problem. And you need that sleep so that your body can re-energize and do what it has to do for the next 12 hours. So going back to the case, 50% reduction in fatigue levels, 39% reduction in minor repairs, 47% decrease in sick leave, and here's the biggie, 23% increase in cash flow. This is hugely impressive to manage this fatigue that worked beautifully.
Wow, 23% increase in cash flow. That's amazing. And that's really quite astonishing on top of all of those other benefits.
And for those in the taxi and courier areas, this is a real big one. They pay the highest rates of motor insurance premiums in the market because of the high level of incidents. And I just want to say one other thing. This is actually really quite serious because these guys are doing 14.5 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, and they're only getting paid at a maximum $18 an hour. Can anybody live off that as well as doing those long hours? So we've got a real critical problem here. So I now want to talk about a small business, and yes, it's mine. From a franchise point of view, it appears at first glance to be an example related to more administrative type franchise systems, such as business coaching or accounting. But in reality, every franchise has a head office, it has an administrative duty, which can be affected by staff absenteeism and lack of performance.
Now, John, I've known you a while, and I remember that after 12 years of great staff stability, in 2011 you had a shocking time with problems relating to staff health, didn't you?
Yes, we did. And the result we made was to actually address the staff health as our starting point.
And so what did this issue cost you in dollar terms?
Well, in temps in a 12-month period, roughly $4,500. Sick days, 19. And that meant cost of absenteeism, another $4,000. We had staff missing in action. Seemed like we were paying some staff to do almost nothing. Literally, they were almost asleep at their terminal, totally dysfunctional. A jargon word for this is presenteeism, which means staff are not effective and they make mistakes and have accidents. It's wastage of human resources and wastage of my money, as it's wastage of your money, as it would be for you. For us, it was $3,500 based on what we could observe. It could have been higher. It's sobering that $12,000 of lost profit. There were more issues we couldn't quantify. There were the costs of mistakes that we had to absorb, and we were unable to pass it on to the consumer.
Gosh, sounds grim. My goodness. And were there any other issues around staff health that you noticed?
Well, unwell staff have used up all their sick leave. They would turn up to work, but were so unwell they literally did nothing. This is a big cost in productivity with delays on projects and impact on clients. Add to that the stress on me as a small business owner, my wife and other staff trying to fill the gap. It's a huge issue.
So what did you end up doing to fix this, John?
Well, as you know, we had done the research and had the concept. We've now seen the results and we're already fine-tuning things to really make a difference. Basically, we began a nutrition pilot. And Hillary, I've got to tell you, thanks very much for your help with this side of things. We encouraged healthy lifestyle. We diverted normal spending. That office biscuit jar was replaced with a fruit bowl. We provided a low GI healthy energy drink to prevent staff trotting to the local dairy and dosing up on those high energy drinks, so-called, that made them slump 2 hours later. We provided top quality supplements to staff who opted in. We knew what we were likely to lose, and it was going to be another $12,000 if we did nothing. So we invested $5,000 in a nutrition pilot. The results were amazing. No sick days in 2012, and we made a savings of over $7,000. The overall improvements were really pleasing. We had high level of productivity returned. Everyone was focused and productive again. And I was able to leave the office before 10 p.m. and that's a real biggie. So Hilary, what I want to do now is find out what everyone thought of the case studies.
Alrighty then. Okay, so let's run another poll. So everybody, you'll see online we are asking you which case study wins impressed you the most. If everybody can select one, please. Was it the 23% increase in cash flow for the International Bus Company, or was it the 0 sick days for Bali insurances plus the $7,000 saving? So if everybody can vote now, and I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, John. Let's just have a look at what that told us. Ooh, 83% of people were impressed by the Bali insurance.
Yay! Awesome.
Well done. I like it. Okay, let's now do some top tips on getting started. A major challenge for many businesses is that there are all sorts of great ideas out there, but they just don't have enough time and money to do it.
And that's a real challenge for people, but in reality, if we keep doing the things the same way, we'll keep getting those same results. So number one tip, start small. Take those baby steps, the results will start to show, and then you can go a bit further.
Here's how to get started. So gather information and find out what the crunch points are for productivity wins. We do this by observing what's happening and discussing the impact, talking to staff engaged in the pilot, collecting information, utilising experienced people who have successfully instigated team building and job design work, and with continual review and feedback to ensure that the program works.
Right, so now we're going to start with health. The reason we start with staff health is that it's a sure way to get those quick wins because it is the primary cause of poor performance. You know your business best. You know where your bottlenecks are likely to be, and it's also a place to start collating information. For example, if you have a problem with a regular vehicle claim or, say, employee, ask, is it due to driver fatigue or illness, lack of attention, driver skill, or this biggie, stress? Check out your operation. Ask what are the things that cause you the most concern.
Okay, so how about we look at some quick wins?
Okay, we're going to look at the lunchbox and on-site snacks. Have a good long look at what you and the people around you are eating. Do they or do you bring in a healthy lunch or order a takeaway? Make some changes to more healthy foods. You need to set the example and chat about it to your staff. It's important to lead by example. Eat those lower GI foods. By that I mean include carbohydrates that have a slower release of sugar into your system so you don't have energy highs and lows and get that sleepy 2-hour drop-off. Do you have a snack bar or vending machine in the back room? Get your snack bar provider to include those healthy options for you.
John, can you share some examples of low GI foods?
Why not? Think brown, not white bread, peas rather than pumpkin or parsnips, kumara, not potato. Avoid the sugar rush of confectionery.
And educate staff. You'll remember that the bus company ran health seminars for the staff and their families. Remember the results they got? Now, you could even go as far as including a session in the annual franchise conference. Wouldn't that make a difference?
It'll make a huge difference, and it's something that I've been really interested in doing. Do some basic ergonomic work. Look at your premises and check out factors such as your lighting, seating, ventilation, cleanliness of keyboards, tills and phones. Remember, your insurance company is not going to like fluoro lighting because it's a fire risk, guys. So they're likely to be penalizing your premium sooner or later. When upgrading an outlet or setting up a new one, check out that LED lighting. It's safer, it's cheaper to run, and it's better for those working underneath it from the point of view of eyesight.
Yeah, here's another one. Encourage stretching and exercise. How about introducing micro-pauses at a set time? Make it fun. Stretches at the desk, in the car, or the truck seat. At Franchise HQ, think about moving the photocopier further away so that people have to walk a little bit more. Every little bit helps towards those 10,000 steps a day we're supposed to take. And John, what about hygiene? Because it can be a major source of problems.
It's a rather interesting one, and it also gets particularly nasty because I've seen some shocking examples. We all know that we've got to wash our hands, but I've been into washrooms where it's smeared with greasy hand marks that haven't been wiped down in months. It's pretty clear that if one person is going to get a cold or a stomach bug, then practically everyone else working in the office or in the region is going to be exposed to it. And that also includes your customers.
Yeah, and the same thing applies to keyboards and phones. Government agencies have actually found that by cutting their keyboard and phone cleaning services, it resulted in an increased frequency of sick days. Now, larger business systems obviously have the numbers to use a professional cleaner, but often the smaller operators can benefit by using cleaning kits that are available.
And have a look at those fleet vehicles as another example of hygiene challenges. They need to be clean, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. And we can refer you to a cleaning kit supplier for that.
Thanks for those top tips, John. So now let's take a look at how we fast-track organisational health. Now, you take a modular approach, I believe.
We do, and we have 4 modules to make it simple to navigate this very big subject. So let's look at module number 1. We look at your franchise operation with a fresh pair of eyes. The next step is to look at your business resilience. How would you manage in the event of a major disruption, such as loss of electricity supply or loss of a major supplier? Often looking at these issues can bring imaginative solutions which create productivity wins for you right now. Another question to ask yourself is, where do you want the business to be in 5 years? This is going to influence decisions around staffing, investment of plant, and even insurance structures.
Let's take a look at module 2. Now, think supply chain and ergonomics. You can get significant supply chain wins by reviewing the quality and health of your key suppliers' processes to ensure continuity of production. As for ergonomics, if you get it right, on average, your efficiency with more uptime and reduced sick days increases conservatively by about 10 to 20%. If you want to know more about this, we recommend that you have a chat with one of our recommended suppliers, Gillian Somerville of GES Consulting. And this makes sense when you recall the return on investment that we talked about. Remember that for every health dollar you invest, you get $2 to $5 back. Remember, the more control you take, the less reliance on insurance you have, and the more you save.
And now we're going to look at module 3, and this is all about training and tools. We can direct you to the right tools and training so you can reduce accidents and costly errors. For example, occupational health and safety training, vehicle safety and efficiency, stress management, the list goes on.
Now, module 4 is about continuous improvement and stepping up to creating a business continuity plan, and we'll talk about this shortly.
One of the things that you're going to recognize is that we have a diverse partnership in our network to help clients facilitate organizational health. Many of them are at the forefront of their field, and I want you to let us know if you'd like to be referred to any of those in that particular service. This is our partner network arranged by module 1 to 4.
As a reference, here's a smattering of logos showing how they service the length and breadth of New Zealand, from SMEs such as Chemesis to significant corporates such as Toll and Bedpost. Okay, John, I think it's time for another poll.
Yep.
Rightio. So everybody on their keyboards, and what I would like to ask you is, where do you see the biggest sources of organisational health improvements in your franchise business system? So if everybody could choose one, please. Your options are staff health, supply chain management, or ergonomics / physical business environment. And I will close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody. And John, the poll tells us that the most votes were for staff health.
Great.
Staff health.
Awesome. You've got the message, guys.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do about it?
Okay, so let's touch on business continuity, as it's an area that is so overlooked in New Zealand, and it's significantly misunderstood, especially in view of the events that have just happened in Christchurch.
Yeah, and it gets pretty nasty out there, and it's a real big subject, but it's very, very important from the point of view of survival of any business. So I want to do another quick chat scramble to kick off.
Okie dokie. So this is where you're going to raise your virtual hand. My question is, if you think more than 10% of the business population have a business continuity plan in New Zealand, raise your hand. So raise your hand if you think more than 10% of businesses have a business continuity plan. So let me just have a look at that poll. All right, so most people think that more than 10%.
Well, I'm sorry, guys, you're not right. It's only 5%.
Wow.
And that's where it starts getting serious. And that's why, you know, so many people complain about the business interruption policies. So we're going to start to work on this right now. The reality is that only 5% of businesses in New Zealand have the continuity plan. This is in part because there isn't a regulatory requirement to have one, unlike Canada and the USA. Another cause of a lack of interest in business continuity is due to misunderstanding the role of your insurance contract. Sometimes it's a case of it being in the too hard basket, or it's just not going to happen to me. But we've seen in Christchurch insurance payouts don't last long enough given the time it takes to get back up and running.
And I imagine this creates horrendous cliffhanger moments. You think you're covered and suddenly the ground opens up on you, and you still have all those costs coming in. Horrible.
And this is where we come back to the issue of health. Stress goes through the roof, guys. Your hormones stop you from thinking. You're in that fight or flight mode. In Christchurch, I saw one particular very successful franchise owner go into a mental freeze for several months. It's just not possible to identify who will be affected. Your franchisees are leaders. They need to be able to lead, and you as a franchisor need to be able to help them succeed. Now, I just want to change the subject just a little bit, because one of the other big issues that are out there is in regards to resilience of your buildings. And for those listening from Auckland, 70% of commercial buildings in New Zealand's largest city need to be brought up to earthquake standard or torn down. Now, that's a real biggie for you, Hillary, coming from the mortgage industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, each of us needs to think, well, what does this mean for us? And that's some of the questions we need to ask ourselves about our buildings. Even if your building was standing after an earthquake, you may not be able to go back in. So what are you going to do? And whether you are in need of a new headquarters or retail site, they're going to be very tight and expensive because of the demand. Insurance does not deal with these issues. You do. You have to be resilient. So now is the time to start thinking about it. How do you get your insurances right so that you're really covered if the worst happens, John?
Okay, you need a business continuity plan first, and then take this to your insurer or insurance broker to get cover that will fit the circumstances to avoid those terrible cliffhanger experiences. And if you have key suppliers, you can dovetail your plan into theirs in order to build your own resilience even further.
Now, inspire us with the tip-top business continuity case study. It really raises the bar on what's possible around business resilience.
Yeah, a decade ago, Tip Top Bread out in Queensland had a major fire. They lost productivity. It was around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But as customers, did you notice any lack of supply? No. Have you ever wondered how thousands of loaves of bread hit the supermarkets as per normal without any glitches? It was a plan, guys, that worked beautifully when it had to include remote office relocation, packaging, external data backup, and use of supplier infrastructure, amongst other things. Now, this will sound corny, but it's a tip-top job by a tip-top team.
Go tip-top. And I mean, I think we all have to ask ourselves, I mean, do you think you could do as well if your main premises burnt down at 2 o'clock in the morning? All right, so let's start with franchisee and staff health. Start with the people in your system. And as we've said all the way through the session, people are the most important. Take time to stop and think of your personal health and how it can be improved. What can be done to prevent illness being the cause of your business difficulties? And how can you and your system be resilient?
And focus with the easy wins around your staff health. The proverbial low-hanging fruit. Have a look at your nutrition. Have a look at your food. See what you're eating. Your hygiene, your exercise. You'll be happily surprised about the results.
So, John, are there any more webinars to provide people with more specific insights into different areas of organisational health?
There sure are. I mean, this has only covered a small fraction of what we can go into and what I've studied. And so we're going to do a lot more in this series. So watch that inbox, please. Meanwhile, please feel free to have a no obligation chat about any of the areas we've touched on today, because we'd love to hear from you.
Great, thanks John. Okay, it is question time. So if you've got any queries, please type them in. You can see the box on your screen. Now your questions are only seen by John and myself. So if you'd like to type in any questions or thoughts that the session has prompted, and we can go ahead and see if we can get those answered for you. So John, I see Willem is typing in a question here, and he says, what about downtime due to injury because of sport?
Yeah, one of the big issues is that we all love to do sport. We see that we can get a lot of exercise and a lot of benefits from that. But hey guys, you know, if you're getting old, then, you know, just back off a little bit, because it's no good going into work, having an injury, you're in pain, you're taking painkillers, you're not going to be functioning. You're going to be making mistakes. And not only that, sorry to say this, but there are some issues in regards to painkillers that are given as well. So watch that one very carefully.
Okay, and one more question, John, which I think we'll have time to just cover this one more. Okay, so this is from Margaret, and Margaret is asking, if these simple measures are so effective, why haven't they been mentioned before in business training? Very good.
Well, the sad thing is, from a lot of the research that I've been doing, there is a growing gap between the studies and case studies done by science in psychology, sociology, physiology, etc., and the studies that have been coming out of Harvard Business School. The gap's getting bigger, and quite honestly, the business training is out of step with the actual reality of human motivation and human health, and that's where we're going.
Okay, great. Well, look, I'm going to call it time there. Thank you, John, and thank you to everybody online for joining us. We hope that that was helpful. We look forward to hearing from you. And again, thank you for your time. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. See you
Bye.
later.